Aiden Montenegro never chose the weight he carried, but life seemed to have other plans for him. Heir to a multimillion-dollar company, his childhood was divided between formal lessons and stolen moments at the piano, where his fingers translated emotions into music. From a young age, he knew the world of business didn't make his eyes light up, but how could he possibly tell that to the family patriarch, Augusto Montenegro, a man known for his rigidity and ambition? Have you ever felt like you're carrying a weight that isn't yours? As if the path you're walking was chosen by someone else, while your true dream remains hidden, smothered by the pressure of expectations? Aiden Montenegro was exactly that person. A millionaire since birth, with a family legacy that would impress anyone, but one that concealed secrets as deep as the silence surrounding him. Despite the luxury and prestige, there was something Aiden never shared, an uncontrollable passion for music, a part of him that made him feel alive, but was consistently ignored by his family. After all, who has time for melodies when you're at the helm of a multimillion-dollar empire? But what happens when the heart insists on speaking louder? When fate places choices before you that are impossible to ignore? This is the story of a man who had to face family secrets, devastating choices, and an internal battle to find his own truth. And what if I told you that what he discovered not only changed his life, but revealed an origin he never even imagined? Get ready to be moved and inspired, because maybe you too have a hidden talent waiting to be heard. Aiden Montenegro never chose the weight he carried, but life seemed to have other plans for him. Heir to a multimillion-dollar company, his childhood was divided between formal lessons and stolen moments at the piano, where his fingers translated emotions into music. From a young age, he knew the world of business didn't make his eyes light up, but how could he possibly tell that to the family patriarch, Augusto Montenegro, a man known for his rigidity and ambition? Everything changed with Augusto's sudden death, an event that not only left an emotional void, but also a company awaiting a new leader. At 27, Aiden was the natural heir, but the dilemma loomed: what would become of him, a music enthusiast, stepping into an empire built in a world so far removed from his passions? It was as if the melody of his life had been drowned out by the expectations of others. The young man lived a divided life. By day, meetings and negotiations filled his schedule, but at night, he found solace in composing songs no one would ever hear. The contrast was as stark as the notes of a piano in an empty room, and he often wondered if it was possible to reconcile his responsibilities with the desires of his heart. Perhaps the answer was closer than he realized. Aiden had always had a conflicted relationship with his family's legacy. Being Augusto Montenegro's son meant carrying not just a surname but also a reputation built on achievements and, it seemed, secrets. It was hard to ignore the looks he received in the company's hallways, as if every employee knew something he had yet to uncover. Deep down, Aiden questioned whether his passion for music was a way to escape his father's shadow. Could he ever truly find happiness in a leadership role he never chose? Or was he destined to live between two worlds, unable to fully embrace his true essence? He knew something had to change, but what, exactly? The answers seemed as elusive as the company's uncertain future. Despite the pressure, Aiden couldn't ignore the emptiness he felt when he was away from his music. The piano, his faithful companion, seemed to whisper truths he tried to suppress. How many people in the world feel the same way? Have you ever wondered how many dreams have been set aside for obligations that seemed unavoidable? But as life often does, it presented Aiden with an opportunity disguised as a tragedy. While he struggled to maintain appearances at the company, he began to realize that not everything was as it seemed. What he was about to discover would not only shake his perception of the world, but also lead him to choices that would change his life forever. Aiden lived in a constant internal tug-of-war, as if his soul was split between two versions of himself. On one side, he was Augusto Montenegro's heir, with a multimillion-dollar company waiting for his decisions. On the other, he was a young man passionate about music, composing melodies that would never leave the confines of his room. How many times have you felt that life handed you responsibilities that stifled your true desires? During the day, Aiden immersed himself in reports and meetings, trying to fit into the corporate world that suffocated him. At night, however, he transformed. The suit and tie gave way to jeans and a t-shirt, and his hands, tired of signing documents, sought the piano keys. It was there, in his solitude, that he found peace, but also a persistent doubt. Could he give up what made him happy to honor his family's legacy? The pressure came from all sides. His mother, Donna Margot, reminded him daily of his duties. "You are Montenegro, Aiden. You have a name to uphold," she would say, unaware that her words felt like chains. Meanwhile, the company's board wasted no time pointing out how inexperienced he was. He felt he bore the weight of a world he didn't choose, while his dream of becoming a singer became a dimming flame. To make matters worse, something unsettling lingered in Augusto Montenegro's legacy. On some nights, Aiden would pore over his father's old files, trying to understand how he had built such a vast fortune. Small details didn't add up, and an unease began to grow. It was as if every new document he uncovered was a piece of a dark puzzle he didn't have the courage to complete. Even so, he tried to adapt, crafting a dual routine that left him exhausted. Many people face similar dilemmas, balancing jobs they don't love with passions they can't pursue. For those people, Aiden's advice would be simple: find 1 hour in your day, even if it's at night, to nurture what makes your heart beat faster. For him, it was the piano. For you, it might be anything that awakens your soul. Aiden's dilemma wasn't just professional, it was existential. He often asked himself, who am I really? The Montenegro heir or the passionate musician? How could he choose between a life of stability without spark and an uncertain existence true to himself? It was a choice many face, and perhaps the answer wasn't as clear-cut as he wished. But, like everything in life, Aiden's conflict seemed to be pushing him toward a breaking point. He knew he couldn't keep ignoring the truth for much longer. What he didn't anticipate was that this truth would come to light in an unexpected and transformative way, altering the course of his journey in ways he could never have imagined. Aiden never imagined that an otherwise ordinary evening would mark the beginning of something that would change his life forever. The charity gala was just another social obligation, and he attended more out of duty than desire. The ballroom was crowded, but when the first chords of a familiar song echoed through the room, everything stopped. It was his composition. A young woman took the stage and began to sing, leaving him stunned. Her name was Sophia, and the intensity with which she performed the song brought every word to life. For Aiden, it felt like a window had been opened inside him, letting fresh air flow in after years of confinement. He needed to meet her. After the performance, he couldn't resist approaching her. "Did you write that song?" she asked, to which he hesitantly nodded. "I knew it. It's so authentic." Talking to Sophia was the complete opposite of what Aiden was used to. She was vibrant, full of dreams, and, most importantly, real. As she shared her struggle to carve out a place in the music world, he saw a reflection of himself in her. "Sometimes, I feel like I'm swimming against the current," she said. He simply replied, "I know what that's like." The instant connection felt like more than coincidence, it felt like destiny. In the days that followed, Aiden couldn't get her out of his mind. For the first time in years, he felt he had found someone who understood his passion for music without judgment. But it wasn't just that. Sophia's presence reignited a fire within him that he thought had burned out. She inspired him to believe that maybe he could live for music, yet doubt still lingered. Sophia, too, was intrigued by Aiden. Despite his seemingly simple demeanor, she noticed a heaviness in his eyes, something deeper than the usual struggles of an heir. She encouraged him, even without knowing his full story. "You should play something for me," she suggested during one of their meetings. Hesitant, he sat at the piano and played one of his compositions. When he finished, she simply said, "This is what you should be doing with your life." That encounter wasn't just about music, it was about courage. Sophia seemed to have come into his life to remind him that he didn't have to live solely to meet the expectations of others. She was the catalyst he needed to start questioning his choices and envisioning a future where music wasn't just a refuge, but his life. Have you ever met someone like that, who showed up at the perfect time to shake up everything you thought was set in stone? But every transformation begins with a shock, and Aiden's was about to unfold. Amid this newfound energy, he stumbled upon something that would alter the course of his story. A discovery that would not only challenge everything he thought he knew about his family, but also threaten the future he had just begun to imagine with Sophia. One night, amidst the silence of Augusto Montenegro's office, Aiden noticed something unusual. Behind a panel of solid wood, there was a small opening he had never seen before. Driven by curiosity, he began to investigate and found an old safe, hidden as if it guarded secrets that were never meant to be uncovered. With a mix of apprehension and determination, he searched through his father's papers for the combination. When he finally opened the safe, it felt as though time stood still. Inside, he found documents that unraveled a story he had never imagined being part of his family. Suspicious transactions, financial schemes, and even letters suggesting dangerous alliances. He could hardly believe what he was reading. The entire Montenegro fortune appeared to be tainted by corruption and covered-up crimes. Each page he read felt like a dagger, turning the man he called his father into a stranger. One contract, in particular, caught his attention. It bore the signature of Eduardo, the mentor Aiden had always trusted implicitly, and detailed illegal transactions conducted in the company's name. As Aiden connected the dots, he realized Eduardo might be more than just an accomplice. He could very well be the architect behind many of the problems surrounding the Montenegros, including Augusto's mysterious death. The discovery changed everything. The weight of carrying his family's name now felt heavier than ever, and Aiden faced an even deeper moral dilemma. How could he continue leading a company rooted in such dark practices? And, worse yet, how could he reconcile with the idea that his father might not have been the man of integrity he believed him to be? The ground seemed to crumble beneath his feet. He decided to investigate further, but knew he would have to tread carefully. Eduardo was still a powerful figure within the company, and any misstep could put Aiden at serious risk. It was like walking through a minefield, and he couldn't help but wonder how far he was willing to go to uncover the whole truth. This was a lesson many people face. How far are you willing to question the foundations of something you hold as fundamental in your life? Aiden realized he needed allies, but whom could he trust? Sophia seemed to be the only person outside this web of lies, but how much could he involve her in something so dangerous? He needed a strategy, and quickly. His life, and possibly the lives of others, was at stake, and every decision he made could mean the difference between exposing the truth and sinking into the same swamp. But one thing was clear, there was no turning back. The safe had not only revealed secrets about his family's past, but also set him on a path he never thought he'd have to walk. He knew the next step would be even riskier, but it was inevitable. What he didn't realize was that the danger was closer than he thought, and Eduardo had his own plans to silence anyone who dared to challenge him. Aiden never imagined that Eduardo, his trusted mentor, could be capable of such betrayal. He had always seen him as Augusto's right-hand man and someone who guided him through the turbulence of business. But now, the pieces were falling into place in a dark and disturbing way. The documents found in the safe left no room for doubt. Eduardo was deeply involved in schemes that siphoned millions from the company and, even worse, had ties to Augusto's mysterious death. The evidence was overwhelming, but Aiden knew he couldn't simply confront Eduardo. He needed to be strategic. He began acting as if he knew nothing, keeping up appearances while digging for more information. He started secretly recording conversations, analyzing old contracts, and mapping Eduardo's allies within the company. Living under constant surveillance was exhausting, but he knew he couldn't afford to let his guard down. The hardest blow came when Aiden discovered that Eduardo had manipulated board members to undermine his position as the company's leader. Eduardo wanted more than to embezzle money, he wanted total control. Aiden, however, refused to be a pawn in this game. He discreetly met with lawyers and specialists, devising a plan to expose Eduardo in a way that left no room for escape. The confrontation between the two was inevitable, but Aiden knew Eduardo wasn't just a corrupt businessman, he was dangerous. One particular encounter made Aiden's blood run cold. With a calculated smile, Eduardo said, "You remember what happened to your father, don't you? I hope you don't make the same mistakes." It wasn't just a threat, it was a veiled confession. Despite the mounting pressure, Aiden found strength in his passion for music and in Sophia, who became an invaluable source of support. She encouraged him to keep fighting, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. "You always say music is your truth, Aiden. Use that. Be true now, too." Her words etched themselves into his mind, driving him to move forward. The time to act arrived. Aiden gathered all the evidence he had and called a meeting with the company's board. Eduardo was caught off guard as Aiden presented documents, recordings, and testimonies that proved his crimes. The mentor's face shifted from arrogant to terrified in a matter of minutes. It was the beginning of his downfall, but Aiden knew the resolution would not be so simple. Eduardo was immediately removed, but the shadow of his actions still hung over the company and Aiden. He understood that this was just the start of a long battle to restore the Montenegro name's credibility. Yet, deep down, one question lingered: was he willing to sacrifice everything to protect the company, or would he finally pursue the path he had always dreamed of? What lay ahead would be the ultimate test of his courage and identity. Aiden knew that exposing Eduardo was only the first step. The company teetered on the brink of a credibility crisis, and the responsibility to turn things around fell squarely on his shoulders. Yet, his soul felt more divided than ever. He loved music with all his heart, but walking away from the company now would be like abandoning a ship adrift in a storm. It was the hardest decision of his life. To complicate matters further, the board members, now weakened by Eduardo's downfall, were pressuring Aiden to take full control. But deep down, he felt the role of leader wasn't his to fill. He knew that Helena, his older and highly capable sister, was the ideal choice. The challenge, however, was convincing a board steeped in prejudice that a woman could lead the Montenegro empire. Aiden devised a plan. He spent weeks working closely with Helena, guiding her through the company's most intricate details and preparing her to step into the CEO role. Behind the scenes, he rallied allies, presenting concrete evidence of Helena's competence and emphasizing how her modern vision could save the company. It was a risky move, but he believed in her potential more than anyone else's. On the day of the decision, Aiden called an extraordinary meeting. With the courage he had been searching for over the past months, he announced his resignation as leader. "My true passion has always been music, and that's what I'm going to pursue. But I'm not abandoning this company. I'm entrusting it to the best person to lead it into the future." Helena Montenegro. The shock on the faces of the board members was palpable, but he pressed on. "She is more than capable, and I will be by her side during the transition." The reactions were mixed, but Helena, with her characteristic poise, accepted the challenge. Meanwhile, Aiden felt a relief he had never known before. For the first time, he wasn't living to please others or to meet external expectations. He was finally being honest with himself. It's a lesson that resonates with everyone. Sometimes the greatest sacrifice is letting go of what feels secure to chase what truly matters. Though he stepped away from the company, Aiden didn't avoid the fallout of his decision. Many questioned his sanity, and rumors about the rebellious Heir spread quickly. But instead of being shaken, he found strength in his music. He began composing feverishly, as if each note was an answer to the world's doubts about him. It was proof that sometimes the hardest choices are the most liberating. Deep down, Aiden knew the story wasn't over. The company was in good hands, but his heart told him that more revelations and challenges lay ahead. His journey to becoming who he truly wanted to be was only just beginning. What he didn't yet realize was that a final revelation, tied to his family's past and its musical legacy, was about to transform his life in ways he could never have imagined. Aiden had finally found the peace he had long sought. Stepping down from the company's leadership created the space he needed to immerse himself fully in music. For months, he worked tirelessly on his debut album, a project that captured every internal battle, every painful revelation, and, most importantly, his quest for identity. Music became not just a passion but his voice in the world. What he didn't know was that this project would become the key to a truth that would change everything. During his creative process, Aiden stumbled upon an old musical score in Augusto's archives. It was an unfinished composition signed by an unfamiliar name, Maestro Felipe Anselmo. Intrigued, Aiden began researching and discovered that Felipe had been a brilliant conductor who mysteriously disappeared decades ago. Each melody felt hauntingly familiar, as though it echoed something deep within his soul. His search into Felipe's story led to a shocking revelation. Felipe Anselmo wasn't just a maestro, he was Aiden's biological father. Aiden was stunned to learn that his mother, Margot, had been in a relationship with Felipe before marrying Augusto. Their separation had been orchestrated by Augusto, who promised to take care of Margot and protect the family's honor. It was a plot worthy of an opera. The discovery stirred conflicting emotions. Augusto Montenegro, with all his flaws, was still the man who had raised Aiden. But knowing that his connection to music came directly from Felipe explained so much. It was as if the pieces of his life finally fell into place. He hadn't just inherited a passion, he had inherited a musical legacy that now made perfect sense. Determined to honor this new truth, Aiden composed one final piece for his album, titled Heir of the Melody. The song told his journey, from family dilemmas to the discovery of his true origins. When the album was released, the world finally heard the soul of Aiden Montenegro, and the impact was immense. The music resonated with millions, but most importantly, it connected Aiden to his truest self. The album launch was an emotional event. Helena stood by his side, proving that the Montenegro family was stronger than ever despite all the changes. In the crowd, Aiden spotted Sophia, her eyes shining with pride. At that moment, he knew that every sacrifice had been worth it. He was finally living the life he had always dreamed of. The most poignant moment came at the end of his performance when Aiden shared his story with the audience. He revealed not only his passion for music but also his connection to Felipe Anselmo. "I am the heir of two legacies, one of power, which I chose to leave behind, and another of music, which I chose to embrace." The audience erupted in applause, and for the first time, Aiden felt he was exactly where he was meant to be. What are you doing with the talents and passions you've kept hidden inside? Aiden Montenegro's story teaches us that no matter how heavy the weight of expectations may feel, there is always a choice. Are you living your dream, or just surviving within what others expect of you? Think about it. How many moments will you keep postponing before embracing who you truly are? Aiden had to face betrayals, uncover secrets, and even give up a multimillion-dollar legacy to stay true to his heart. Are you ready to confront your fears to live the life you've always dreamed of? Maybe it's not about giving up everything, but about taking the first step. What will yours be? If you're ready to keep learning how to transform your reality and discover how to achieve what seems impossible, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, you'll find inspiration, strategies, and real stories that can change your life. Don't put off until tomorrow the life you deserve to live today.